Hi there, this is Crystal, and today I am working on a 12 by 12 layout for ColorCast Designs. So I have a photo already printed. This was taken at our local nature park just a few days ago. The snow and ice was absolutely gorgeous, so I snapped a photo at around sunset, and I have this ColorCast Designs element. It says little moment, and it has all the little pieces to fill in the letters in these gorgeous glittery kind of colors. I guess they're kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Metallic almost. So I'm going to use that as my title. I have a few other pieces, a couple snowflakes that are from this month's release as well. As for papers, I have a couple things pulled out. I have the snowflake paper pad and the honey and spice paper pad from Heidi Swap. This is crepe paper. So I think I'm gonna pull papers from those. I have a few embellishments from both of these collections as well. And I do have a few bits from Willow. I think these three collections coordinate really beautifully together. So I've picked up a few of each, and that is what I'll be using. So what I'm trying to decide right now is whether I'm going to do any mixed media on the background. I did pull out this set of watercolors. This is a metallic watercolor set, really inexpensive set. I think I picked it up at Target a few years back. You can see I've barely used it. So I'm thinking of maybe adding some watercolor, but I'm not sure. So I am going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and just jump in. So I decided to go ahead and do some watercolor on the background. So off camera, I have just added some clear gesso to a sheet of Basil Marshmallow cardstock. This is a heavy duty cardstock that does really well with mixed media. I did still add gesso just because I knew I was going to be adding a lot of water to this page. I wanted the watercolor to really move around and flow on the page, so I went ahead and added that gesso. I let it dry completely, and now I sprayed it with water, and I'm adding some color just kind of randomly with a brush, working in a diagonal on the page. I know I want the darker color to be on the bottom right and the lighter color to be on the top left, so kind of an ombre in that direction. But I know that my photo is going to sit in the center, so I'm not bothering to add any color there. I know that will be covered up, so I'm not going to waste my time adding any paint there. Okay, so being really messy, this is going to move around a lot, and it's not going to be totally visible, obviously, with all the photo layers in the center of the page, but it is going to add a bit of sparkle to the background, which is really all I'm going for. So I've added the color in the shades I wanted, and now I'm just adding some splatters in those same colors, and then I'm going to bring out my heat tool and dry it that way, just because it's quicker for one thing, and it also moves the color around on the page so that you don't see all of those brush strokes. So there it is. There is the background, and it looks a bit of a mess right now, but like I said, a lot of it's going to get covered up, and it's really just going to be just a light shimmer in the background. Okay, so I've trimmed off the branding strip, and now I'm going to work on the layers behind my photos. So I've pulled out those ColorCast design elements so that I have them there, and I can kind of compare the colors in the papers as I go through these two paper pads. And I'm just kind of randomly pulling out ones that I think might work. I'm definitely sticking to a tighter color scheme here, working with the pinks and greens and a little bit of gold mixed in as well. So I've pulled out those 5 papers from Snowflake, and I'm going to pull out a couple from Honey and Spice as well. I really like that one. I thought it worked really well with the mixed media I put on the background, but I don't end up using it. I just felt like too much of it was covered up by the time I added all of the other layers. So those are the papers I'm going to start with. I'm going to figure out which ones I want to use behind my photo. I'm just kind of playing around right now, seeing what works together, what looks good next to each other as well. I don't end up sticking with this exact formation of papers, but it does give me a jumping off point, which is really all I'm looking for at the moment. I decided to add some vellum behind my photo because I felt like it needed a little bit of separation. I didn't want to add a white border, but I did want something between my photo and all of those pattern papers. So I felt like vellum added just enough of a separation, and also it looks a little bit like frosted. Once I distress all the edges, they turn a little bit white, and it just reminds me of the frost that's in the photo. So I thought it worked really well that way. So I'm just using the edge of my scissors to distress the edge of that paper. I don't have a fancy distressing tool, but you don't really need one. Your scissors works just fine for doing that. And then I'm going to add some paper behind my photo, and I'm just testing out which ones work well. I thought I was going to use that light pink striped paper, but when I added this dark green paper behind my photo, it just really made the colors in my photo stand out so much more. So I'm going to add that first and then build some other layers up behind it. I'm just doing really thin mats, really thin borders around the edge of my photo. I don't want to take up the entire page, but I do want to bring in a lot of color this way. This is basically the only way I'm going to bring in color to the page. So I want to make sure I add several layers, but at the same time, like I said, I don't want to take up the whole page. So just doing a thin border of that green paper, and then I'll add that pink stripe paper behind it. And I like the contrast of that light pink paper with that dark green paper. So again, just doing a thin border of that, and then I will continue to build my layers, adding a couple more layers of paper behind these two. I decided to add this geometric paper, but I felt like it needed something in between, so I'm going to add that minty. Oh no, I didn't. I decided to go straight for that geometric paper. I really liked the way that geometric paper worked with the background, with the mixed media on the background and all that sparkle, and it felt like it just added a bit of something wintry, something holiday. So I really liked the way that worked. I thought for a second that I added that minty green paper, but I don't have my layout in front of me, so that's part of the problem. Okay, so I'm going to add my title just to make sure it all looks the way I want it to look. Some of the metallic or mirrored bits from ColorCast Designs do have a protective layer on the front, so be sure you pull that off if you get some of these pieces. They are absolutely gorgeous, but you want them to be as shiny as they can be, so make sure you pull off that protective coating on the top of them. Right now I'm going to go through the ephemera pack from Honey and Spice. There are quite a few things in this paper, or in this ephemera pack, that would work with this layout. I pulled out quite a few of them. I don't end up using all of them, of course, but there were so many that would work, and they are absolutely gorgeous. There are lots of vellum pieces, and there were some that have kind of a metallic floral on them, and I really wanted to use those, but I just didn't feel like they worked well with this very wintry scene. There's also that beautiful metallic piece on vellum, but it was just a little bit too big. I felt like it kind of overpowered the rest of the page. Same with that hello, also gorgeous, but it just overpowered too much of the page, so I don't end up using it either. There are those florals. They're really, really beautiful. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't make it work for me with this very wintry scene. So I do end up using that little round vellum piece from that pack. It says "Make Today Count," and I do end up using a few other little bits as well. Right now I'm looking at the cut-apart sheets from both collections. I do really like these cut-apart sheets. They're so handy, and it's like getting a little package of ephemera in your paper pad. You can cut them apart, and they basically just act exactly like ephemera does. So I chose two pieces. That green one is going to go in the upper left corner, and then that tag that says DEN is going to go in the bottom right corner eventually. And I just use those to kind of build up the layers behind the other embellishments that I'm adding to those two corners of the page. I also have the cardstock stickers from Snowflake, and I pulled out a few of those. That little bird is absolutely adorable, and it had to make it on this page, so I add it to the bottom right hand corner, and then I felt like I needed something else metallic in the upper corner, so I pulled out this thicker sheet from Snowflake, and I'm going to add just one little snowflake in that kind of, it's not exactly gold, it's a little bit rose gold. It's really beautiful. It works perfectly with the ColorCast design elements, so I'm going to end up adding that as well. And then that's basically it. What you see is basically what the page is going to end up looking like. I haven't glued anything down though, so I have to pull everything back off and glue it down. I do kind of gut the ephemera pieces a little bit just because I felt like I could use the inside of that one that was going to be completely covered up anyway. So I do cut that away, and then I just start building the layers back up and adding everything down to the page. At first I didn't think I was going to cut the circle out of this tag because I thought it would be covered, but I decided to to punch a hole there anyway, just in case it showed, and then it ended up showing. So I'm glad that I did that. I don't add anything into that tag, but you are able to see that cut apart or that cutaway circle. So glad I did that. Then I can just glue everything down to the page and make sure that my photo is straight. Since all of these things are kind of on wonky angles, I just used my T-square ruler to make sure that the photo itself was straight on the page. And I didn't get it perfectly centered. It ended up being slightly off-centered, but because I have the majority of my embellishments on the bottom left-hand side, it ends up feeling balanced anyway. So I didn't worry about trying to realign that. Right now I'm just gluing down all of those color cast design pieces. I use some glossy accents to do that. That's what I found is the easiest way to get them adhered down. I'm sure there are lots of other adhesives that would work, but glossy accents works really well for me, so that's what I ended up using. I used just my tape runner to add the other little bits, except for this bird, which I'm going to pop up on some foam dots, just because I wanted it to overlap with that color cast design snowflake. So to get it to sit flat on the page, I just needed to add some foam dots to the rest of it. And then I'm going to also add some of these enamel dots from the Willow collection from One Canoe 2. The colors worked so perfectly with the rest of the things I'm using on this page. I tried using the green ones just to bring in a little bit more of that light green, but I didn't like the way they looked. I felt like those kind of metallic gold and pink ones worked better because they mixed in with the splatters that I had on the background a bit better, and just felt like they all just kind of belonged there. So that's pretty much it. I did feel like it was just a little bit lacking something on the top and bottom, so I'm going to go to my standard design. It seems like I've done this a lot this year, but I really like the way it looks, and it just kind of fills out the page to me. So I'm going to cut away a little piece of the top and the bottom and use a little strip of this light green minty paper to add just a bit of color to the top and bottom of this page. I'm just using that one strip and cutting it away so I can use it at the top. So yeah, I just add a bit of adhesive along the edge that I cut away, and then line up the edge of the paper with the edge of that little strip of pattern paper, and that's how I get those strips to look like it's a full 12 by 12 piece of paper behind there, but really it's just that one little strip that I've cut in. And that's it for this page. So there are lots of close-up photos coming up. Be sure to check out the link down below if you'd like to pick up these color cast design elements for yourself. They are absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy with how this page turned out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some inspiration, and I will see you all back here very soon.